Show me
porch
ID
light flickered
now!
once, then
Funny,
steadied,
I'm
casting a
FBI.
pale
I
yellow
said
glow across the
now!
quiet cul-de-sac. Marcus Reed had just set his coffee down when he heard the click, sharp, metallic, unmistakable. He froze. Slowly, he lifted his eyes and found himself staring straight down the barrel of a handgun. The man holding it wore a black security jacket with bold white letters across the chest, "HOA Security." "Step away from the door," the man barked. "Hands where I can see them." Marcus's heart pounded, not with panic, but with a weary, familiar ache. This was his home, his porch, and somehow, once again, he was being treated like a threat. Marcus raised his hands calmly, fingers spread, the steam from his coffee curling into the cool evening air. "Officer," he said evenly, "I live here." The word officer felt generous, but he used it anyway. The security guard's jaw tightened. He was a white man in his late 40s, crew-cut, eyes sharp with suspicion rather than reason. "I didn't ask for a story," the guard snapped. "We got a call about a suspicious individual trying to break into this property." Marcus swallowed hard. Suspicious. The word landed heavier than the gun aimed at his chest. Neighbors' porch lights began to flick on one by one, curiosity creeping out from behind curtains. Marcus felt the familiar heat rise in his chest, not anger, not yet, but humiliation. He had moved into this neighborhood for peace. Tree-lined streets, good schools, a place where his wife, Angela, could garden in the mornings and where his teenage son, Caleb, could ride his bike without fear. He'd believed the brochures, believed the smiles at the open house, believed, foolishly, that respect came with a mortgage. "I can show you my ID," Marcus said. "My keys are right here." He nodded toward the table beside him. The guard took a step closer, gun never wavering. "Don't move," he warned. "You people always say that." The words hit like a slap. Marcus's jaw tightened. He breathed in slowly, counting the seconds the way he'd been trained to do: inhale, hold, exhale. Control the moment. Control yourself. Inside the house, Angela had heard the raised voices. She peeked through the blinds and felt her stomach drop. "Marcus," she whispered, already reaching for her phone. She had seen this before, on the news, in viral clips that ended with sirens and tears. She stepped outside despite the risk. "What's going on?" she called out, her voice trembling. The guard glanced at her, then back at Marcus. "Ma'am, go back inside," he ordered. "This doesn't concern you." Angela's hands shook as she held up her phone. "That's my husband," she said. "This is our house." The guard scoffed. "We'll see about that." He motioned with his head toward Marcus's pockets. Slowly. "ID." Marcus moved with deliberate care, pulling out his wallet, every motion calculated to avoid tragedy. He handed over his driver's license. The guard glanced at it briefly, barely reading the name, already convinced of his conclusion. "These can be fake," he muttered. "You fit the description." Marcus almost laughed at the absurdity. Fit the description of what? Existing while black. Caleb appeared at the top of the stairs, frozen in place, eyes wide with fear. Marcus caught his gaze and gave him a small nod, a silent message: "I'm okay. Stay calm." Inside, Marcus felt the old conflict stir, the man he was versus the man he had to be to survive moments like this. Years ago, he'd learned that raising his voice could cost him everything. So he spoke softly. "Sir," he said, "I don't know who called you, but this situation is unnecessary. You can verify my address. Check the HOA records." The guard's radio crackled. He pressed a finger to his earpiece, listening, then scowled. "Backup's on the way," he said. "Until then, you're staying right there." Marcus nodded. He could feel the eyes of the neighborhood on him now, some curious, some uncomfortable, a few quietly ashamed. Mrs. Peterson from across the street clutched her robe tighter, her mouth slightly open. She had waved to Marcus every morning for 2 years. She said nothing now. Minutes dragged by like hours. The air felt thick. Angela stood beside Marcus, close enough that he could feel her warmth, her fear pulsing through her. "It's going to be okay," he whispered, more for her than himself. She nodded, though tears welled in her eyes. She knew how quickly, okay, could turn into irreversible. A patrol car finally rolled in, not police, but private HOA management. 2 men stepped out, clipboards in hand, confusion written across their faces. "What's the situation?" one asked. The guard lowered his gun slightly but didn't holster it. Suspicious male on private property, he said. Refused to leave. Marcus let out a slow breath. This is my home, he said again, louder now, his voice steady but firm. I'm Marcus Reed. I've lived here 3 years. One of the managers flipped through his papers, then looked up. His eyes widened slightly. Reed, Marcus Reed? He asked. Marcus nodded. The man's tone shifted immediately. Sir, there must be some mistake. He turned to the guard. This is the homeowner. The guard stiffened. That's not what the caller said, he replied defensively. They said, he stopped himself. Marcus felt something snap, not rage, but resolve. Said what? He asked quietly. The guard didn't answer. The silence spoke loudly enough. Marcus reached into his wallet again, this time pulling out a second ID and holding it up so everyone could see. Before we go any further, he said, his voice calm but carrying weight, you should probably look at this. The manager took it, glanced down, then froze. His face drained of color. He looked at the guard, then back at Marcus. Sir, he stammered, I didn't realize. The badge gleamed under the porch light. Federal Bureau of Investigation. The street fell silent. The guard's gun dropped fully now, his hands suddenly unsteady. I didn't know, he muttered. Marcus held his gaze. That's the problem, he said softly. You didn't need to know my job. You needed to know I'm a human being. A homeowner. A man on his own porch. The manager apologized profusely, words tumbling over each other. WA policy. Miscommunication. Standard procedure. Marcus listened, expression unreadable. He'd heard it all before, in different forms, in different rooms. Angela squeezed his hand. Caleb finally came outside, standing tall beside his father. Marcus placed a hand on his son's shoulder, grounding both of them. I don't want excuses, Marcus said at last. I want accountability. Training. Change. He looked around at the watching neighbors. Because tonight, it was me. Next time, it could be someone who doesn't walk away. The guard couldn't meet his eyes. I'm sorry, he said, barely audible. Marcus nodded once. Make sure that apology means something, he replied. Later that night, after the street had emptied and the porch light was turned off, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with his family. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind exhaustion and clarity. Caleb broke the silence. Dad, he asked, were you scared? Marcus thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, he said honestly. But I was also proud. Because I stayed calm. I stood my ground. And I showed you that dignity is power. Angela reached for his hand. You shouldn't have to prove that, she said. Marcus squeezed back gently. I know, he replied. But until the world catches up, we keep showing it who we are. The next WA meeting was packed. Policies were rewritten. Training was mandated. Some neighbors apologized. Others listened for the first time. Change didn't come all at once, but it began there, on a quiet porch, under a flickering light, when a man refused to be reduced to a threat and instead stood as a reminder of truth. Because respect isn't granted by a badge, a title, or the color of your skin. It's earned the moment we choose to see each other fully. And that night, Marcus Reed didn't just defend his home, he claimed his humanity, and in doing so, left a door open for others to walk through with their heads held high.